loud, just to pretend like it didn't happen. I have people near and dear to me who have had child losses or pregnancy losses, and they say clearly, I don't want to talk about it. So I feel like you're
Mhm.
a rare bird, and I really, really appreciate you sharing this.
So I find in my situation, when I went through this, or our family went through this, I shared it with everybody
Hmm.
that same day, just like my other kids. I was proud to have my baby, Jenna, and just like my other kids, I celebrated them because they were here on Earth, and same as Jenna, she was here. I wanted to celebrate her even though I lost her. But at the same time, I wanted people to know that she was born and was here with me. Um, Unfortunately, not too long for us to enjoy. Um, as far as the details of how people it's a taboo subject, right? So
Yeah.
it's normal for people to think that shouldn't be talked about. But in my case, it has helped me tremendously to talk about Jannah, to talk about my whole experience. It has I have walked through this path by everyone's help here, because if I didn't share it, I wouldn't have that help or that support that I got from the community, from the people around me, from the family, everyone. It's. I think it was a huge benefit for me to cope with this grief that I went through, and I'm still going through. Like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and it's never gonna go away, but I have had a good way of managing it now, because it has become normal to talk about Jenna, and that's exactly what I wanted.
I love that you're saying that because, like Uzma said, a lot of people tend to not want to talk about it, or like myself, if a friend was going through it, I would feel a little bit awkward. Like, what should I say? How should
Mm.
I say it? But the reality of the situation is, you want to give voice to her life, and allowing your friend the opportunity to be able to talk about this person that existed. I think is part of the grieving process. But I think a lot of people are going to be curious about how your pregnancy with Jenna was. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your pregnancy journey with us?
No, absolutely not. So, unlike my other pregnancies, this one was walk in a park.
Oh,
um, and so I've been on high risk pregnancies from the get-go. My first daughter was high risk throughout my pregnancy. My son was high risk. I was monitored every week on all my pregnancies by the doctor and MFM department, because it's my cervix was always dilated and early on. So it was something that for this one, when I was pregnant with Jenna, maybe because I was home, I less stressed because we were working from home. Um, Not sure why, but my cervix wasn't dilated, and it was just easier. I wasn't as sick as I was with the others. I'm always gestational diabetic. This time I wasn't, and
wow.
but at the same time, I was still being monitored each week because of my experience or my history, and I've had 3 C-sections before Jenna, so again, that was another reason they had to monitor that where the placenta attaches and so on. As far as complications, I did have a complication during, I think it was around 22nd week when we found out. They had done an ultrasound for her at 20th week, where they found that she had a delay in growth, and she was 3 weeks behind in growth, and so that gave us a little bit of scare, and that's when things started to turn a little bit, and throughout the pregnancy we knew that she was 3 weeks behind, and at 32-week mark. I had an ultrasound appointment that morning, and they felt that the baby was in distress, and so it had to be delivered. And I went into a C-section, and because she was 3 weeks behind in growth anyways, she wasn't really 32 weeks. She was technically 29 weeks. And just like
Mhm.
my third pregnancy with um, Myra, when she was born, she was also born 32 weeks as well. And she had some breathing issues, where she was carried away to CHIO, which is the Children's Hospital. Um, they were able to resuscitate her, but with Jannah, they unfortunately weren't able to resuscitate her. She had the breathing issues, and she didn't make it, unfortunately.
Thank you for sharing that. That is, it's just so ironic that this was the easiest pregnancy, but subhanAllah, it turned
Yeah.
out, with a completely different outcome than your other ones. You write a lot about Jannah on your socials, and you talk about
Mhm.
those 21 hours you had with her. Can you share a little bit about those 21 hours? And, it doesn't have to be in great detail, but especially the immediate aftermath of her birth, what that was like. Maybe somebody would benefit from those emotions that you went through in that experience.
Of course. So I found that when you're not expecting it, you don't know what to expect, right? And it was as hard it sounds. The it was handled so well. They did such a good job at handling it, making sure that I was at ease with every decision. They offered me everything. Um, I do have a few things that I didn't accept, because I was like, okay, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I regret that. And so, if I hope nobody goes through this, but if you are in a situation like this, always accept what they're offering, because you might end up regretting it
Okay.
at the aftermath. With the 21 hours, I cherish them. They are my memory with her. Although she wasn't alive, I got to capture moments with her, felt her. I tried to memorize each and every bits and pieces of her. So it was something that I really um, treasure. And sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
No.
But right after birth, you had asked. So they took her to the grieving room. It's called the grieving room. Um, and you're allowed to stay with them. Actually, you're allowed to stay with your baby for 48 hours.
Okay.
But I didn't want her to go to the morgue. So at night, so I kept her, and I wanted to bury her the next day because I didn't want it that way. Um, and it was just, they were very helpful. They bathed her with me. My husband was there too. We got to spend time with her the way that we would normally spend it with a normal baby, except we knew it was going to end. But it was something that I personally think it was something that I will remember or cherish forever. And I think it's necessary, because these are the memories that you want to hold on to after, to grieve on, or to move yourself forward with. I have since this experience, I have spoken to a lot of um, I've spoken to a lot of parents that that have actually went through this, and they didn't like, they didn't explain it, or they didn't tell anyone, and or they didn't even see their baby. And they're
Mhm.
still in pain. I mean, they still cry about it. They still, like, it. You don't get over it, obviously, but they have nothing to hold. And especially with this whole scenario of having a memory, I've actually gotten a realization that the people that have had miscarriages, late, they also go through the same pain and grief, but they have nothing to show for.
Mhm.
And it's harder. Like, I've had miscarriages before too, but it's um not as late as I would think. And again, I didn't realize it until Jannah, that, oh my God, this, like, the direction your life goes is very different. I
No,
hope this helps.
I can hear the pain in your voice, and I think what you're trying to refer to is the concept of closure, like the ability to be with her, to go through the motions, to like you say, memorize, because she was a part of your life, regardless, whether it's, 10 minutes, 30, 21 hours, the rest of their life. So I feel very grateful for you that you did have that opportunity. And the one thing that I'm always curious about, and I have to be honest with you, like, as a friend or as somebody wanting to support you and not knowing what to say, what would you say to those people that want to support somebody going through this? What are the things that we can do, to help them help you go through this process?
So I haven't. I had interesting moments throughout this process, because there were times where, like you said, Zeba, you don't know what to say, right? Sometimes not even saying anything, just being there and giving the person the opportunity to talk
Mhm.
is all you need. Um, and but at the same time, um, I I I would prefer if somebody would bring it up rather than avoid the
Mm,
subject, because there's a
yes.
huge elephant in the room and you're not trying to address it. And you're like, okay, well, there were times when people would talk to me about the world, everything except my little girl. And so
Oh,
that was hard on me, because they would, or they would address it as, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, which is great. I'm happy to that you feel it, and I know, and it's nothing again, like, everyone means well. Like, you have to accept that people have said things to me where you'd be surprised why somebody would say something like that, but honestly, they are running out of words,
yeah.
and they don't know what to say, but they really do. At the end of the day, they mean well. It's not, they don't mean anything negative for you. They care about you, and that's why they're calling you in the first place, right? And if they say something that might instigate something, it might be a trigger, but you have to keep in mind, in the back of your mind, that this is all because they mean well. They care about you, and that's why they actually called. So if you are a support person, I would suggest to talk to the person, do check-ins. Like, I had a great support system. My in-laws were really good. My friends here were really good. They always checked on me, and but at the same time, as much as the support person requires, the check-ins doesn't have to be, how are you doing? Check-in is, can you tell me what you're feeling? Because
Yes.
how are you doing is a shutdown of, like, oh, I'm good. Like, it's an
Yes.
expectation that I should feel good. And
Yes.
most of the time, I would not take the opportunity to say anything to them, because it's easier, right? And it's also, in a way, you feel like, okay, do I want to take them into this dark road of where I am? Like, do I want to tell them that I was crying like a maniac just 5 minutes ago? No, it's sometimes you have to give that opportunity to the person to speak, and you have to be ready to hear it too, right? it's
Yes.
Mhm.
it's a two-way scenario. So if you are not ready, how are you is a good way. But
I
if
like
you're
that
willing
advice.
to share,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're willing to hear it and actually want to just hear it, and at the end of the day, do not find a solution. There's no solution.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to give them a solution to, like, oh, Allah does this on purpose, and no,
Yes,
there's
no.
no purpose for this. You do not need to do that. You just have
Mhm.
to hear it, share it, and that's it. Like, there's no positivity at the end of the day. I mean, just be there. um
Um,
that's it.
I want to allude to something that you wrote. I don't, well, I think it was shortly after Jenna passed away. But you mentioned Allah will never give us anything more than we can bear. And that
Hmm.
you were talking about how a lot of the community was like, oh, you're bearing this because your Islam is so strong and you're so this. And you said, no, I'm not bearing this well because this absolutely
Hmm.
sucks. I'm only
Hmm.
able to bear this because Allah loves me so much. And I thought that that was really, really moving and a testament to, your sabr, which I've never known anybody to have a lot in this situation. I've actually written about, we called it an IUFD. In medical terminology, that's an intrauterine fetal demise, but that the
Hmm.
term that lay people use is stillbirth after 20 weeks
Hmm.
gestation. So when you deliver that, the room is eerily quiet, but also there's a lot of noise because there are definitely going to be people there who aren't, they're coping in their way. I think you said earlier that you do grieve, so you're not perfect, but I want you to understand and know going forward and anybody hearing this that however you grieve is perfect, and
Yes.
continuing
Absolutely.
to grieve doesn't make you any less perfect. So I did want to point that out. And, thank you for documenting what you're going through these last few months because it's opened my eyes to, because I never know, because like you said,
Hmm.
I've always said, how are you doing? And that person said, even when they were patients the next morning would say, I'm fine, or how do you think I am? I'm going home empty handed, so it
Oh,
would either be very passive aggressive, angry, or just completely shut down. So now thank you for giving me the words. Can you tell me how you're feeling? I think that's super helpful. So it seems that some of this journaling and documentation that you're doing is how you're coping with the loss of Jannah. Can you talk a little bit about how the different members of your family are coping with it, specifically your children?
um so So I have to, I'm going to go back to what I was saying before. When there's a support person that's there to help you, and what should they do? At the same time, I have to say the person that's going through this has to open themselves to
yes.
accepting
Mhm.
support, because I think one thing that has helped me tremendously is me allowing myself to accept any and every support possible. I have assigned people to check in on me every couple weeks or so
Oh,
in the beginning, because I was like, no, you know what, you're calling me today, but can you check in on me again in 2 weeks? Because I don't know what I'm
yes.
going to be doing in 2 weeks. Like, I'm okay today. I don't have anything negative to say or sad to say. I'm fine. I'm doing better. But check in on me. And I have to. I really appreciate the people that I actually assigned. They did call me, and
Oh,
they did
alhamdulillah.
actually reach out to me, and I
I
feel
love
so
it.
happy because, and it's really appreciated, because, but then at the same time, as me, as I call myself the victim, you have to be open to, like, taking that support call, taking that support message, or anything. Like, just be ready to accept it, because you know what? It just goes through. It lets your grief process a little better. Now, coming back to your question of, um, well, it's one of those things, right? When you are, remind me the question again. I
I
had
was
it
asking how everybody's coping with Jenna's
right.
loss because we
So
feel like we have an idea of how you're coping. It seems to be the journaling and
right.
documentation, but maybe not all your kids have that language and skill to do.
Absolutely. So that brought me to reminding that the person has to accept,
Mhm.
because I accepted therapy as well. So in our culture, mainly, or in any, I think you don't tend to go towards therapy,
Right.
and I accepted that. I or a lot of people actually said therapy is not for us. Yeah, they see people don't need therapy.
Right.
Of course
Why
they
do
do.
you tell everybody your feelings? That's not their business. That's you just talk to
Yeah.
Allah. Yeah.
Exactly. No, you definitely need to talk, because therapy is nothing, just an opening to discuss your feelings or talk about your feelings out loud, and it helped. And so my parent or my kids and my husband all went through therapy sessions,
Oh, good.
um, and they offer that. You have to ask, but they offer that
Mhm.
with this scenario, and you just have to ask the doctor, and they will offer it to you right away. And it was helpful because it brings you to discuss things openly at home. I've made it a point to discuss or talk about Jannah openly. I include my kids openly. They're old enough to understand. Even my 3-year-old, she understands enough. So it's one of those things where you're like, okay, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to discuss it. So as far as my kids are concerned, they are openly talking about it. In the beginning, it was tough for them too, because again, they were expecting a little sister coming into the
Mhm.
home. In fact, my oldest, my son and my 3-year-old has a good bond. So my oldest had plans to create a really good bond with Jenna,
Aw.
and my 3-year-old was expecting a little baby in the house, and like, I'm going to be a big sister. So it was exciting. So all that, need to say that they're coping it a lot better than I expected, because I think we have the acceptability of talking about it. When I'm crying, I don't hide away. They need to know that I'm sad about it, and how I, because again, I'm their role model, right? So if they ever
Mhm.
go into a situation where they're sad, I need to be their role model of how to handle these feelings,
Yes.
right? So if I hide away, how will they ever know? And I want them to know, because there have been a lot of people that came out that told me that they have gone through this. In fact, people that I know personally very well, that I had no idea that they had gone through it. And
Yes.
I swear, I wish they told me before, because maybe I would have been a little bit prepared for this,
Mhm.
and what to expect, and how to expect, and how to handle it, and if how normal it is. Because again, right after, you feel like you're isolated, you're not, nobody goes through it, or I'm the only one that's going through it. So it really helps to share and talk about these little things.
I love that, and the fact that you are modeling the behavior of grief for your children. You're taking away that stigma and you're giving them power, right? Like, that is a power to give your
Absolutely.
children. And I really, really commend you for doing that, because, like you said, you have friends that have gone through similar things and you knew nothing about it. And quite frankly, you're putting up boundaries when you do need the support and the
Yeah.
structure and the check-ins. So yeah, that's definitely good advice, and that's one of the main reasons we are talking about this very difficult subject, because we want people to understand that there is no stigma to this, that you do need the support and you need to be able to reach out. So thank you so much for being so brave. The one thing I wanted to ask you, because I am going to ask you this open-ended question, is how are you missing Jenna, obviously, and what is the one thing you want us as an audience to know about Jenna that you will carry with you? I would imagine for all your days.
I think we're just waiting for